And so today we're going to be talking about measuring L&D effectiveness with data and returns. This is something I love, right? And this is something I've also been doing both theoretically and practical, right? So both theoretically and practical. We do theory as academicians, and we also do practical as professionals that give out this value. So I added something extra, a theme, and this is what I said: from activity to impact. What L&D? So forgive me. Let me start apologizing before I start. Forgive me if I break chairs and break tables today. Please forgive me. It's not deliberate. It's just that we need to get it right. So a lot of L&D people, HR, because some organizations, HR, you're doing the L&D. Why in larger organizations, maybe medium businesses, you have L&D separate from HR. So you hear me saying HR and L&D for the small organization, either the small businesses, micro businesses that have HR in charge of their L&D. So from activity to impact, that's what we're going to be doing today. No more activity. We want to move from there to impact. And let me introduce myself just like Demola said. So first of all, I want to welcome everyone. So glad you are here. Demola has welcomed you. And thank you so much, Demola, for welcoming me. Thank you, OLXD, for welcoming me and for giving me the opportunity. I derive joy and energy when I'm asked to facilitate. This is something I've done for the past 26 years, if I'm not mistaken. So let me just tell you a bit about myself. And this is me. My name is Sandra Iheanacho. I'm known as the Oracle. If you want to know what the Oracle means, later I will tell you about that. That's not what we're talking about this morning. So I'm known as the Oracle. I'm also known as Africa's leading voice on training transfer effectiveness. That's not what I want to talk about today. So maybe if there's time, I will tell you what does training transfer effectiveness mean. So that's on the line. So that's what I'm known as in Africa. I'm the leading voice on training transfer effectiveness. I've been going to various African countries trying to create that awareness about it. So I'm a CEO of M. Bryan Consulting Limited, where I work as a servant leader. I'm an ex-banker. I'm a mother of 5 children, 3 lovely boys and 2 girls. I'm an IFC Global Master Trainer. IFC stands for International Finance Corporation. It's a sister arm of the World Bank. So I work with them as a Global Master Trainer. I'm a certified assessor with the Learning Performance Institute. Now, the Learning Performance Institute is in UK. Check them out. They're one of the biggest body when it comes to learning performance. And I work with them as an assessor. So I certify trainers globally, not just in Africa, globally, and say they have the right competencies to train. I'm also a transfer enabler for Africa with the Institute for Transfer Effectiveness. There was something Demola said when he started the introduction. He said, you hear so many things: ROI, ROE, transfer. Don't worry, you will hear more today. So it's an institute in Switzerland, and we are high into transfer effectiveness. So for every training, so this is get towards training. For every training, we ensure that those training, you transfer it, there's application in it. So that's what the institute does. And I'm a transfer enabler for them for Africa. So I'm helping them to certify HR and L&D people and trainers globally. Then in Nigeria, when it comes to the certification, I'm the first in Nigeria. I'm the first Nigerian certified transfer designer. I'm also a resource person with the Lagos Business School. So I teach in the Lagos Business School. I started teaching there since 2018, and I teach in the leadership department, what we call organizational department and HR department, OB, organizational behavior and HR department. So I work with Aki Okmarasin. For those that are in the HR space that know him, he's a guru, a grandfather in the HR space. So I am restricted to leadership. I do leadership for C-suites, CEOs, HR heads, L&Ds, directors. So C-suite, that's what I do leadership for. I'm also a certified transformational coach, a certified team and group coach, a certified Kirkpatrick professional, a teacher and trainer for the past 26 years, both formally and informally. I usually say when you stop learning, you start dying. And so because of that, these are 2 certifications I want to do. So the first one, let me get my pointer, my laser pointer. So the first one, I'm going to be doing it this year by November this year. Then the second one, I'll be doing it next year. And all these things are in dollars. So we need to plan very well. I'll be doing that next year. So this is a bit about myself. And I will tell you the reason why I had to tell you all these things about myself. I had to share this. Some persons may say she's blowing her trumpet. Not a problem. Sometimes you need to blow your trumpet. And yes, I'm blowing my trumpet because I deserve to blow it. Right? I didn't start today. No, I didn't start today. And just like what Demola was saying, which OLXD, when you start watching and people will say, oh, by the time the great things he has done, you didn't know where he started. He started because I had a conversation with Demola. And if you see what he has gone through, surveys, research. So when he's blowing his trumpet, please, he should be allowed to blow it because he did not start from he started from the scratch, building and building and building to what it is now. And so I started from the scratch. And I've been building and building to where I am right now. So permit me to blow my trumpet. So that's a bit about myself. It's more than this, but I don't want, let's leave it there. And so this is what I usually write in every situation. This is what I usually write. I say, difficult roads lead to beautiful destination. Difficult roads lead to beautiful destination. Why did I say so? Some of you, today is for Nigeria, those who are in Nigeria, today is Owambe. Today is parties, today is weddings, and you felt that you should not be in the wedding. You should be here learning. Are you okay? You should be resting. You've been working from Monday to Friday. Today is a Saturday. You should go and rest. Why will you be in a webinar organized by OLXD? Why? There's a reason why you are here. You're here because you want to grow. You're here because you want to gain value. You're here because you want to be better than who you are. And for that, I give you kudos. So unlike me, when before, that's why Demola asked, Sandra, are you ready? Because I've been on a roller coaster. Just came back from Rwanda. I'd not finished my slide. I have so many things to talk about. Demola said 1 hour, 30 minutes. I said, how do I bring all these things into 1 hour, 30 minutes? My head is on fire with because I went to Rwanda to share what I'm sharing with you, a bit of what I'm sharing with you. And I'm like, how do I compress it to 1 hour, 30 minutes? What are the things I should add? What should I remove with everything I know and everything I want to just pour out to people? So I was trying to, because I don't like, if they tell me 1 hour, 30 minutes, I like to stick to that time. Right. So it was a difficult road to me, but the beautiful destination is that people will gain value today and people will be different. So let's just take note of this. Difficult road leads to beautiful destination. And so do not complain about the struggles, the stress, the pain you'll be going through. There's somewhere you're going to. There's a beautiful destination you're going to. Keep at it and you will get there. I want to ask a question. Just like Demola said, please let's make this class interactive. Let's make this webinar interactive. I don't like talking to myself. Now, I'm going to be looking at the chat box and let me ask, are you making a difference in your organization? Don't forget our topic. We're measuring the effectiveness of L&D with data and impact. Are you making a difference? Are you making a difference? Type into chat. You can say yes. You're the one that can tell your story, or you can say no, or you can say I'm trying, or you can say, Sandra, I really don't understand what making a difference means, even if I've heard the topic. Are you making a difference in L&D when it comes to L&D, learning and development in your organization? And for those who are HR consultants, I can see that you're 9%. So in the life of your clients, are you making a difference? HR, I'm sure as HR, you mean you're doing the part of L&D. Are you making a difference? Now, let me ask. So for those that said they are making a difference, how are you making a difference? You can see I'm trying to stammer. How are you making a difference? Let me even ask that first before I push it. How are you making a difference? How are you making a difference? Do you want to type into chat? Okay, I can see someone. Thank you so much. So far, my learning initiative has led to improve awareness on the need to learn and improve, increase desire to learn, and create better processes and services. Okay, thank you so much for these things you just shared. But do you want me to tell you the truth? Do you want me to tell you the truth of what you just shared with me? You just spoke in L&D language. And that's the problem we have with business. You just spoke in L&D language. If you see, I didn't call your name, so you don't feel somehow. I didn't call your name. I just said what you just spoke in L&D language. And that's what L&D people are good in doing, and HR. It has improved awareness on the need to learn and remove. What does that, what is that doing to the business? What's the business? What's our business with that? As a business leader, by the way, I'm a business leader now. I'm a CEO, so I employ people, I pay salaries. What is that to me? How does that add to the bottom line for me? How has that improved my bottom line? How has that increased the revenue for the business? No, this is L&D jargon, sorry to say. Thank you so much. I'm going to clap for you, Shegu. Then I will bust a bit of your bubbles. Again, what you just did, Shego, awesome, beautiful. Let me summarize what you said. I was able to drive HR initiatives. I was able to drive engagement. People are talking now. I was able to strengthen our HMO relationship. What does that mean to the business? What's the meaning of all that you just said? How has that added to the numbers? How has that increased revenue? How has that brought about profitability to the business? So I know that HR L&D, we are doing so many things. We are doing great things, right? In all those things. But you need to learn to stop speaking HR jargon and L&D jargon. And that is why you will not have a seat at the table. And that is why you don't have a seat at the table. And that is why you'll be known as a cost center. For crying out loud, we are not cost center. I don't know about you. Okay, let me talk for myself. For myself, right? I am an investment center. I am not a cost center, even a profit center. With all the things you just wrote and people just said, that's why they'll continue to see you as a cost center. And that's why whenever you want to cut costs, go straight to HR, go to L&D. They don't know what they are doing. They're just now. Let me tell you something that really happened recently. I was speaking to a very top GM of HR, one of the oil and gas firms in Nigeria. He's a friend of mine. We've gone way back. And he said to me, he said, Sandra, guess what? I said, because I was telling him about the models I built and what I'm doing going around Africa. And he said his MD said to him, oh boy, how far? We sent some people to Harvard. You know how much Harvard is? Go and check how much Harvard to send senior executives to Harvard. How much you pay? Up close to $40,000 to $50,000. He said, how far? What's the returns of those people we sent? The guy was looking at his CEO. Why did he share this with me? Because I was talking to him about ARA and ROE, and I was telling him about the models I built and how I can help him. And he was like, Sandra, as in, oh boy, I could not answer. He said, I could not answer my CEO because he said I could not prove it. I said, you don't enter one chance. You're in one chance. I'm talking about GM of HR. Do you understand? So it is, so a lot of HR L&Ds, they are struggling with this. And I'm going to try and to see what I can do within this short time because you cannot know it all today. However, let me give you the foundation bit of it. So the earlier we stop speaking, we start speaking to what the management is looking at, your CEO, the stakeholders are talking about, the board are looking at, the better you'll be able to have a seat at the table. Now, why do I have a seat at the table in organizations? I turn down engagement. No, I'm not proud to, well, I'm proud to say that. So when you come to me as an organization and you're not ready to see ROI and ROE, I will not touch you. And this year I've turned down 3. I did not get there one day. So I am there. I'm where I am now. And that's what I do now. Right. So are you making a difference? And what I've seen is that you're making a difference. However, you are not showing that difference. So let's see. Let's go ahead and let's see how to unpack this. I'm going to use a real life case study. What I did with my client, I'll use it and use some I've done this year. Let me see how to help within this short time. Maybe next time, Demola, you should do this webinar twice or do it a longer time. Okay. Let me move ahead. Or are you just measuring what is easy? Which is what HR and L&D do. They measure what is easy, what is okay by them. And I want to, I'm not going to unpack this because there's somewhere I'm going to. Or let me ask that question so I can be unpacking gradually. Now, when we say learning and development, L&D, what does L&D mean? What is L&D? What's what's your definition of L&D? Why did I ask what is L&D? Because I need to say something here. That's why. I have seen even senior L&D. Like now, I have a class for senior HR and L&D heads. And I hear this, I see this even during webinars and when I'm having conversations with them. And I, even in a group I belong to, yes, day before yesterday, I had to hit them hard because this is a group of senior people. And they were telling me training is same thing as L&D. I wanted to get into that WhatsApp group and just slap everybody one after the other. L&D and training are not the same thing. Let's start that before we get to the main. I need you to get that now before we continue. They are not the same thing. L&D, just like what Heaven tried to explain to us, is the bigger picture that tries to find out how the gaps we have in the business, are we able to solve it? And we can solve it in various ways. The performance issues we have in the business, how are we able to use learning initiatives to solve it? That's what L&D, learning is, learn and development. How do we develop our people? What are those initiatives we should use? What are those areas in what would help them better? But I see people, when we talk about L&D, they revert to training. They say training. They say training. No, L&D is not training. Training is a subset or a component of L&D. L&D has to do it. How do we design learning initiatives that will solve business problems, that will solve the gaps we see in the business? And who are the ones in charge of this business? Who are the ones that work? Who are the assets of this business? People. So how do we use learning initiatives through people to solve business problems? That is what L&D is. That is what it is. So how do we do that? So there are various learn and development initiatives you can use. And so training is one of them. It could be coaching, it could be mentoring, it could be stretch assignments, it could be leadership programs where you have a bit of coaching and mentoring, it could be peer-to-peer learning, it could be job aids, it could be job rotation, it could be various means. So these are various areas of L&D. It could also even be putting people into communities. So L&D is not training. Training is just one way to solve L&D issues. Training is just one way to solve the people issues in the organization. Training is not L&D. I hope that's very clear now. Now, let me tell you a story. I'm going to tell you a story. Some of you may have heard of this story before. And if you check online, you will see the story. Now, it was one midnight on a quiet street. And a drunkard, it's called the drunkard story. So you can go online, you see it in YouTube, on Google, you see it. And he was slouching you can see how he's doing. He was holding the light and was bending down, searching for something. And someone just came by. You know how good we can be, how nice we want to be as human beings, and saw him, pitied this man, said, "What exactly are you doing? What are you doing?" He now said that, that he's looking for his door key, the key to his house. And so without it, he cannot enter his house. Now I'm adding my own story. I always add my own story whenever I get a story. So this is in case you go there and you don't say exactly the same thing. I'm adding my own story. Now the passerby joined him and started looking for the key. They were searching for the key. They searched everywhere the light was showing, where they could see, because other parts were dark. But where they could see, they were searching. The guy now asked, I said, "Are you sure you lost the key here?" The man now shook his head and said, "No, I didn't lose it here. I lost it in the park there, that place where there's no light. I lost it there." And the guy was like, "Excuse me? Then why are you searching here? If you lost it in the park where it's dark, why is dark? Then why are you searching here where there's light?" Because the man now said, "Because at least there's light here. He can see better. That place is too dark. He cannot go into there." Can you imagine this? And that is what we do as HR and L&D. You may laugh because when I read it, I laughed and was like, "Omo, is this guy okay? You lost your key in the park where it's dark and you're coming to where there's light on that lampstand to be checking for your key. Which kind of thing is that? Do you want to find the key there?" Of course, he's not going to find the key there. But that is the truth of what happens to a lot of HR and L&D. They are measuring what is easy. Yeah? You're measuring what is easy. You're measuring happy shirts. You're measuring, some people are like, how do I measure coaching? They cannot measure the returns on coaching, and so they don't even go there. How do we measure the returns on mentoring? They don't know how to measure it, so they don't even go there. How do we measure returns on training? They don't even know how to measure the behaviors, the change. They don't know how to measure it. So what do? They just measure only training, and they go with happy shit, what we call in Kirkpatrick, which is the 4 levels of evaluation, level 1 and level 2. They're just measuring the how did you enjoy the training, for those that are doing training measurement? How did the people like the food? The people like the facilitators? What I call happy shit. The people complete it. The people score 90% or 85%, whatever the objective was for the learning objective or the training. Why some don't even go near coaching? Because they don't even know where to start. They feel that coaching is soft. How do I measure coaching? Some don't even go to mentoring. It is soft. How do I measure it? How do I measure the peer-to-peer engagement? And I've come to tell you, stop, let that story stop today. Don't be this drunkard again. You have to just build yourself. And I'm here to give you a foundation to how to build yourself, right? And then what I'm saying to you, everyone on board here, if you can hear my voice, I'm saying make a difference. And you can make a difference. I need you to make a difference in your organizations. I need you to make a difference in the lives of the clients you're working with. For those who are HR and L&D consultants, I need you to make a difference. But let me ask you, do you know that you can make a difference? I want to believe your answer is yes. That's why you're here today. So I'm not going to ask that, wait for you to respond because of time. Yes, you believe you can make a difference, and that's why you're in our webinar. Are you willing to make a difference? It's going to take everything from you. I'm going to change your mindset today. Are you willing to make that difference? I want to believe that you are willing. You'll be the one to make the difference. And I'm proud to work with you to say, let me show you how to make the difference today. Let's start small. Let's start small. Now, this webinar is a strategic session. I'm going to shift your mindset from activity reporting to impact reporting. Activity reporting are when you do level 1 and level 2. For training, you do the sheets, the happy sheets, the people feel, that's for training. Then for coaching, you just say, we did the coaching and everybody is happy about the coaching. The coaches said it helped them to do their work very well. That's activity reporting, right? Tell them, what does it mean? It helped them to do their work well. What does that mean? We did a mentoring, we had a mentoring engagement in organizations whereby we merged mentors to mentees. And when we were doing the follow-up with the mentees said, oh, my life is now better. I love that my mentor, my life is now better. What does that mean, please? What does my life is now better? And I love that mentor. What's that? That is activity reporting. So I am here to what? Move your mindset from what? Activity reporting to impact reporting, because there's a difference between activity reporting and impact reporting. And we're going to be looking at it. That's what I want to do today. Then also, I want to sharpen your tools by exploring ROI and ROE. Very briefly, because of time, we'll look at ROI and ROE. What's the difference? And what are the practical ways to even measure intangibles? And when I talk about intangibles, I say, when people say communication, management says they want everyone to be happy in this organization. Can you measure that one? This management, they are looking for trouble. They are setting you up. How can you measure that we want everybody to be happy? We want everybody to feel they belong. How do they want you to measure this? There is a way to measure it. You just need to know how to define those soft, those intangibles. When you're able to define it, then you can measure it. If you cannot define it, you cannot measure it. So that's what I want to help you to do. What are the practical ways to measure even intangibles? Then I want to strengthen your reporting power. So the next time leadership asks you for results, you have data that speaks their language. You're not saying people were happy, people are getting better, we are driving HR initiatives, people are talking, people can relate. That one is bobo. That one is HR and L&D language, right? So this is a strategic session, a strategic webinar, and that's what I want to do today. So what are the objectives for today's webinar? I want you to, by the end of this webinar, you should be able to see the difference between reporting L&D activities and proving L&D impact. You should be able to spot ROI and ROE measures across all L&D interventions, from training to coaching to mentoring to stretch assignments and beyond. Then you should be able to identify easy to use models and frameworks to connect your L&D initiatives directly to organizational results. And if you're able to do that, this is what will happen. The business will grow. I want to give you a data on L&D, on the cost. I want you to see the cost of no measurement for those who are not measuring. This is not Sandra's data. This is not the Oracle's data. This is online. Go online, you see it. So according to Deloitte says that companies align L&D with business goals. They see measurable revenue impact. This is what Deloitte said. So for instance, they gave an example. For every 1% increase in L&D spend, they see a 0.2% revenue rise, meaning that you should be measuring your L&D initiatives. Each of your L&D initiatives, because when you do it, for every 1% increase in your L&D initiatives, there is a 0.2% revenue rise. This is from Deloitte. Now, let's look at another data. Another ATD research, you know ATD. ATD says only 43% of L&D leaders say their learning goals align with business goals. Only 43%. Can you imagine? Out of the research they did. So meaning that half of the L&D leaders says, we don't even know what we're measuring. Our learning goals are not aligned with our business goals. So if your learning goals are not aligned with your business goals, you've entered one chance. You will still be seen as a cost center. You will still be seen as, you will not be given a seat at the table. Now, the last data before I now go into, up to 60% of training investment is wasted. This is by Training Industry. I'm sure you know Training Industry. I read their research a whole lot. Then we have Gartner. We also have by Forbes. Check out the reports they come up with. Said 60% of training investment is wasted. Why? Because training is done without aligning with business goals, and training is done for the wrong people, and training is done when training is not the solution. So let's leave that. Now let's move on to this. The cost of no measurement to the business. This is what happens when the business doesn't measure. Strategic blindness. What do I mean by that? When I say strategic blindness, leaders cannot tell if L&D is moving the needle on the business or not. How has L&D impacted the sales? How has L&D impacted customer retention? How has L&D impacted compliance, innovation? How is L&D doing that? With that, you find that decisions most often are made in the dark because there's no measurement. The business cannot see any measurement for all the monies we are putting in, all the various, some will come again with mentoring. Let's start coaching. Let us start 10 people on training. Some people have budget of over hundreds of millions for training, hundreds of millions for their L&D initiatives. Nothing. This is what happens to your business. Again, poor resource allocation. Your budget will keep flowing into the wrong places. Wrong programs that feel good. When there are programs of high impact intervention, you can put the budget on, but because it's a feel good, you put the budget there. Stalled talent growth. What happens to the people in your business? Without measurement, how do you know the gaps? How do you know for them to improve? So people continue being the same thing. They entered your business a year ago, they are still the same. 2 years, they are still the same. No growth, nothing improved, nothing has changed. Instead of creating leadership pipelines, your leadership pipelines dry up. And when it is time for a position that is vacant, you go and spend money to recruit and bring somebody in. When you can develop those inside for them to grow up to that leadership position, now you're spending more to go outside to bring people in. Because of there's no talent. Would you even go outside when you're looking for new talent for someone to fill in a position? Why don't you start from inside? You are starting from inside because you cannot see any growth. And that's what happens when you're unable to measure. Erosion of competitive advantage. What do you think happens? Competitors who measure, what do you think happens? They refine their L&D. They gain agility. Their organization is innovating. There's efficiency. There's capability of the employees. The employees want to continue to work there. Last but not the least, trust, which is the painful part. Loss of executive trust. And that's what has happened for a lot of L&D and HRs. Executive, they don't trust you. Yeah. Because they feel that you're not adding value, that you're even causing more problems to the business. Executives lose confidence in HR and L&D. They don't see as a value-adding function. Next year, they will shrink your budget again because they cannot see the returns that budget they gave you last year or the budget they gave you this year is adding to the business. So next year, they will shrink the budget. They will reduce it. And should they be shrinking L&D budget? No, they should be increasing it. And so that will change today based on all the things you're going to hear. It's going to change today. I'm not going to ask you because this one, how do you currently measure L&D effectiveness in your organization? It means that you're not even measuring. So let's leave that. Now, why measuring L&D matters? This is why it matters. Prove your value of investment, align with business goals, reduce waste, strengthen talent pipeline, and L&D a seat at the table. Show them that, see, I'm not just here to talk boo-boo. We will be able to show ROI and ROE. ROI, by the way, is return on investment. ROE is return on expectation on whatever value we are adding. Is it on coaching? Is it on mentoring? Is it on training? We are able to show that. Then in that, align whatever L&D initiative you're doing with the business goals. Align it with the business goals. I want to explain this so that I want to go straight to the case study, and I'm going to use something you're more comfortable with, which is showing ROI and ROE for training, which is one of the components of L&D. I'm going to do that now, so at least you can see how we proved that for the business. Align every L&D initiative with business goals. So for instance, let me give an example. If the organization, one of the business goals of the organization is that they want to expand into new markets. That's one of the goals for the 2025. They want to expand into new markets. Now you look at it, they want to expand into new markets. How do we expand into new markets? What are the skills that are needed, the knowledge, the attitude, the behavior? What should we apply to be able to expand into new markets? Checking out by it, I mean, in that, I hope you know that when you want to do that, when drawing up your L&D strategy, you get input from other businesses, other business units or department, whichever you call it, other businesses and departments. And for every goal the organization have, every department takes it. Now, when the department takes it, they what? They trinkle, they scale down. IT is taking it, HR and L&D is taking it, manufacturing is taking it, and everyone is saying, what does this mean to us as a department? And it is from there they now design what are their gaps. How can they be able to meet this goal? But you know, the problem I see in a lot of organizations is Stephen Covey says, begin with the end in mind. Meaning, we have a goal, we have where the organization wants to go to. Now, with that, come up with things that will help us to hit where that organization is going to. But what do units do? Even business units. But it's your role, L&D and HR, to correct this. They go to performance appraiser and they said, in this year, this person was not good in this. And so we need him to go for training on this. And we need this person to be coached. Based on what? Just based on performance? Did you tie that to the business goal? How would that help the business? And that's why a lot of people are doing things that are not touching. They're not hitting on the business goals. They're not hitting on the strategic objectives of the business. You start from the top. Where do we want to go to? And from that, every business unit derives, this thing we want, this is where it is going to hit. This thing we want, this is where it's going to hit. This is the only way to be able to show ROI and ROE for your interventions. Why we measure again, it helps us to reduce waste. We stop wasting money. It strengthens the talent pipeline and it earns you a seat at the table. HR L&D, it earns you a seat at the table. So this was where I wanted to go to when I said, but I had to start from the beginning. So what exactly is L&D? So when I say L&D, I don't mean only training. I mean the entire ecosystem of development, which could be formal learning, which is where you have training. And now training could be, training comes in various ways. You could have training whereby I have a friend, he's the HR director of one of the organizations, and he says they paid 20 million naira to Coursera for this year for their staff. 20 million naira. This is, I'm being factual with you. I'm not going to, of course, I can't name the organization. 20 million naira to Coursera. I now asked him, I said, so how have you been measuring it. How did you come about? Why did you use Coursera? Why did you buy all those courses? What 20 million for the staff? How are you measuring it? He said, to tell you the truth, we are not, I don't even know. Some people say are not doing it self. We are pushing them to do it, to do it, to do it. I said, then why did you do that? What made you go to choose Coursera? What made you pay 20 million? He could not answer those questions. He just felt that let us reduce money that we pay. And my budget, he has a very big budget, by the way. He has a big budget for L&D. And he says he took 20 million. He says he felt that Coursera would be easier for people instead of sending people on training or getting people to come in. That is a cheap. I said, but you've wasted money. I said, you've wasted money. And so it's a story for another day. We went through into all that and I showed him how he wasted money. So when I'm talking about L&D, I'm talking about the whole ecosystem. I mean the entire ecosystem of development, which could be formal learning, which could be leadership journeys, which could be coaching, which could be mentoring, which could be on-the-job experience, which could be learning communities, which could be peer-to-peer learning. This is what L&D is all about. I am not saying only training. So if you want to measure your L&D, you should be measuring the L&D ecosystem. Each one of this should be measured. You should collect data on them and you should evaluate them, and with that, you're able to measure it. And you start by defining how each of this, because coaching and mentoring, it is intangible. How do you measure it? So we are coming to that. Let's move. So these are about 5 streams where investment happens and where measurement must follow. It could be more than this, but I've narrowed this to what I see a lot of people do. So if we only measure training, we are shining the light under the street lamp and ignoring the rest of the field. Now I'm going to share a case study to you. Before I share the case study of what happened with a client we worked with, let me now put this. For coaching, how do you measure coaching? I'm going to share a case study for training because I know that that's what a lot of you are measuring and that you'll be able to relate with that. However, I'm telling you today that you don't measure only training. You can measure coaching. You can measure mentoring. You can measure the leadership journeys. You can measure peer-to-peer learning. You can measure even the learning communities if you put them there. What is the first step? The first step is being able to define what you want. Defining it in measurable terms. So for instance, let's use coaching for instance. I have an organization that said they wanted to start a coaching engagement. And what they did is first of all, they sent their people on coaching to learn the coaching skills, not to be coaches, because I'm a qualified coach, to learn the coaching skills. Now, when they sent them to learn the coaching skills, they started the program and it was formal coaching engagement. Now, when they started, the first thing I said, define where is the business now? Where are you when it comes to coaching? Because they are just starting coaching. I said, take a survey. And they took surveys. They started with a pilot test with just 20 managers across their regions. Now, they took a survey and found out from the managers when it comes to using coaching skills, and they defined what coaching skills were, the conversations, and they were looking at 3 things: questioning skills, listening skills, and giving feedback. Those were the 3 things they took when they talked about in their coaching, the skills they wanted to see: the questioning skills, the listening skills, and the feedback. And they did a 360 on this. What they used, the assessment, the people assessed themselves, their direct reports assessed them, their peers assessed them, then their line managers assessed them. That was a 360 they did, and they had the data, and they started. 3 months down the line, after that, they did again a survey, a 360 again, to see where they were in these 3 areas. Don't forget the 3 areas I talked about: questioning skills, listening skills, and what? Feedback. Now, in the questioning skills, they defined what they meant by questioning skills, how it should be. In the listening skills, they defined what did they mean by listening. And now in the feedback, they defined what they meant by feedback. And that was what the rating, the 360 rating was in. So can you see that you can measure everything? You just need to define it. And 3 months down the line, they did it. And guess what happened? They found of the 20 managers, they worked with 20 managers. of the 20 managers, 10 of them out of the 20 were moved from. So they checked out, okay, where were you on this stage? Let's say, for instance, you were on 50 and needed you to get on to 70. So most of them were on, they didn't get to 70. They were on 65%. And that's when they start having that conversation. Why? So this is just an example for you on how to, so you can measure anything. You can measure coaching, you can measure mentoring, you can measure learning communities, on the job experiences, you can measure peer learning. You need to learn how to define. And that's what I found out. A lot of HR and L&Ds do not know how to define these intangibles into measurable terms. Let me give you another example, another client I worked with. They said communication. They don't, that that people cannot communicate effectively. The senior managers were not communicating effectively. I said, what do you mean by they're not communicating effectively? He said, yes, they don't communicate effectively. I said, do you want to explain that? That communicating effectively is too ambiguous. We cannot measure that. It took me 45 minutes with this L&D manager to define what communicating effectively meant. And at the end, let's summarize. What she meant was the senior managers, the board usually sends in a report at the end of every month. At the end of every month, when they have a meeting, they send a report, and they needed the senior managers to now disseminate this information, those reports they sent in, within 48 hours. But the line managers were not doing it. Some 1 week later, some 5 days later, what they found out that the decisions the board wants to make and take, they could not. And so they said that these people, they don't know how to communicate. They need to go and teach. They should go on a training on communication. So can you imagine if we did not define that? So what you needed, what the L&D manager needed was that she wanted the managers within 48 hours, and by the way, it was in their policy, within 48 hours to what? Disseminate and to pass down those information the board have given them within 48 hours. That was what not communicating effectively meant. Can you imagine? So you'd have gone to do communication training and the problem will still be there because you did not define this. Those intangibles must be defined. So that conversation to be able to define it. Now let's go straight to what is very easy for you people, you know about training. Let's go. This is an organization we worked with. And we were able to define. Now, this was what they told us they wanted to see. Let me tell you the story about the organization. They are into, it's an international organization. I'm not going to call their name. They are into manufacturing. So they are service technicians. So they send their service technician to sites, various sites all over, not just Nigeria. So we had people that joined in from other parts of the world to the sites of their clients. Now, when they go to the sites of their client, they work there for like 3 weeks and they come back. Now, when they came to us, they said to us that their people are not confident. Their people are not, they listed 5, their people are not confident. Their people are not communicating effectively. That these service technicians, they don't know how to relate with people. These are all the stories. We had to ask back and forth. We're doing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, asking questions, trying to narrow down. And this was what we narrowed down. So why am I sharing this with you? I want to let you know that if you don't know how to ask the right questions and define those intangibles, you would have a problem. You will not show ROI. You will not show ROE. We were able to define those intangibles they were talking about. All those things about, they said they were not communicating effectively, they did not have emotional intelligence, that they were not relating well with their people. Those were stories. Those were jargons of HR and L&D. This was what it became. Look at it. Business impact. So it became that at the end, what they wanted that at the end, when the service technicians come, they should be able to update their daily report, daily report updates of their submission. They should update it daily. Secondly, they were what they call timesheets that they submit. They said they wanted them to be able to adhere to submitting their timesheet. Thirdly, they had a report. They said they wanted them to ensure that they submit this report, adherence to the report submission. Then complaints from customers. They wanted to reduce complaints from customers and they wanted to reduce complaints from colleagues. This was what we came to. And I told them, at what rates? So I told them first, give me the data of what all these things are now. They didn't agree to give data. I said, no, we will not move ahead. Go and collect the data. What is the data on this? So that when there is when we are evaluating 3 months down the line, we will be able to see, was there a change? What we did, was it a waste of time? It took 3 weeks to 1 month for them to get this, but we're patiently waiting. I said, go and get the data. And they got the data. I'm going to share the data with you very soon. And they said they wanted to see a 70% increase in adherence to daily update submission. They wanted to see a 70% increase in adherence to submission of timesheet. They wanted to see, let me use my laser pointer. They wanted to see a 70% increase in adherence to submission of reports. They wanted to see a 30% decrease in complaints from customers and a 20% decrease in complaints from colleagues. This is what they wanted to see, the business result, the impact they wanted to see. Now, what I found that a lot of people talk about ROI in training, and they don't talk about ROE, return on expectation. Return on expectation is the soft part, is what management want to see. But you must be able to define it. Because I have seen organizations, this one is live and direct, whereby they had return on investment on training, but they did not have return on expectation on training. How? What management said, they wanted to see people to collaborate more. Even after they had an increase, a return investment on that training, people were still not collaborating. Do you know that is very possible? That you can see ROI, but you will not see ROE. ROE is the behaviors. It is ROE that increases your productivity because it is the behaviors that change, that adds an increase in the business. If you say you want people to stop walking straight, you want them to start walking right, that is a behavior. So even if the numbers changes and people are still not working right, then that expectation for management has still not been met. So in anything you're doing, in any L&D initiative you want to measure, please measure the ROI and the ROE. Now, if you measure the ROE, if you're able to define what management is called, I gave an example, communication. I want people to communicate better. I want people to be happy. You're able to define into measurable terms. You will be able to get the ROI. That one is simple. Because with that, you're able to get ROI. That's why I'm using this as an example, this training. So with all those stories they said, this is what they wanted. This is what they wanted in all the stories they said. Now, what are the behaviors? We talked about the behaviors. Let's look at what are the behaviors to be able to get this. Because if you want to get this, if there's no change in behavior, nothing will change. It will continue to be the same thing. Now, they said when technicians are on site, they need the technician to submit a daily report on or before 12 midnight, according to the standard of the project manager. So the project manager came up with a standard and say daily on or before 12 midnight, submit your report. Why did they come to us? They were losing money. Clients were complaining. And that's why they felt that the people were not communicating, maybe because they were in the different client zone. Service technicians, these are hard people that are technical people. So we need to teach them how to communicate. Before I told them that's not the cocoa, you need to define and know what the problem is. So that means they expect the service technicians to submit a daily update on or before 12 midnight, according to the standard. So the project manager drew up a standard and shared with us that he shared with the service technicians. Great. The second behavior was that technicians submit their timesheets as at when due. So when I asked him, I said, when you say when due, what do you mean by that? He now spoke to them and said, when due, what he means by when due is whenever they come out from the client site within 3 days, 72 hours, on or before 72 hours, they should submit their report. So when a line manager tells you when due, what does when due mean? When due can be anything. Let them define it. So he was able to define to her and said, when due means that within 72 hours, they should be able to submit their report. Great. What is the third behavior we want to see? It said technicians should submit their report on or before 2 days after the job, according to the reporting template. What is the reporting template? Because then they didn't have a reporting template. People submit anything, anyhow, their report. And it says, I've been telling them this report, one person is submitting different, so this other person is submitting another thing. I said, you've been telling them what? Do you have a template? No. Don't you have a template? This is why you'll be having to say, but I used to tell them. I said, used to tell them is different. You can't say you used to tell them. Draw up a template and give them. So anybody that gives you a report without that template, that means the person is the one looking for trouble. The person has already is not following the template. So they designed a template that is the template we use for reporting. Are we now seeing that you can define and design behaviors? Now, the remaining two behaviors, it said technicians avoid the use of inappropriate words in their communication with colleagues and clients. You can see I wrote service manager to communicate example of inappropriate words. What do you mean by inappropriate? So they listed what they felt were inappropriate words. They don't want service technicians using these words when they are communicating with their colleagues. Last but not the least, technicians avoid the use of inappropriate non-verbal communication with colleagues and clients. Same thing, the service manager defined. What do you mean by inappropriate non-verbal communication? What is it? And he defined it. They even use pictures. Yeah, they use pictures to show us the different behaviors, inappropriate behaviors. You must define this. And this was what they did. They defined it and we got this. And let me show you I have just 4 minutes. Let me show you the result. This was what happened. 3 months down the line, you can see the date there. The date is there. This happened in 2024. The L&D office now reached out to me and said this to me. Now, before the training, it was 40% adherence to daily update submission. They did the data and they found out that it was 40% adherence to data submission before the training. Now, submission of timesheet before the training, it was 40%. In adherence in submission of report, it was 40%. Now, they said they wanted an increase to 70%, right? So that is like a 30% increase in daily update submission of timesheet, submission of reports. Also, the same thing in the complaints. They wanted a decrease, a 30% decrease in complaints from customers and a 20% decrease in complaints for colleagues. After the training, this was what happened. From 40%, it rose to 90%. I did not give the data. They gave the data themselves because I'm an external person. So they're the ones that carried out the data. I guided them on how to carry out the data. You are the internal people. You are there. You are L&D, you are an HR. So you should be able to do this data. And there are various ways you can collect data, baseline data. You can collect through survey. You can collect through focus groups. You can collect through one-on-one discussion, one-on-one conversations. You can collect through managers. The managers, they are observing through observations. So define which way do I want to collect this data? But you must collect data on all your airline if you want to show this, if you want to show the business an increase. So there was a 50%. So they told me, I don't know. I was not in the organization. This was what they gave me, and that's what I'm sharing with you. So they said there was a 56% increase in adherence to daily update submission. There was also a 54% increase in submission of timesheets. There was a 51.5% increase in adherence to submission of reports. A 46% decrease in complaints from customers, a 54% decrease in complaints for colleagues. This was what they gave. And let me give you the icing on the cake. Last but not the least, this was what they said to me. They sent to me. The lady now says, Sandra, thank you so much, ma. Said, the line manager was asking her that what did she say? He said, what magic did you put on my clients? I mean, on my employees. There was somebody on PIP. For those who don't know what PIP is, Performance Improvement Plan. This is it. She said, a staff that was on PIP, who was on the verge of being asked to exit the system after the PIP was over, after the training changed drastically. The employee have had 3 reinforcement feedback given by external customers. The manager has also seen a great improvement with respect to his work style. He also shows more confidence in carrying out his work. This was what the L&D officer sent to me. Can you imagine someone on PIP was removed from PIP because of data, measurement, and evaluation? So you can imagine if this was not done well. Of course, that person, I'm sorry for that man, he would have left. But we saw when you're able to define things, people know what they're watching out for. I want to see this. You should be able to see this. But why this continues? Because people you don't define it. And so people are doing whatever they want to do. But when you define it, you can hold people responsible in different ways. And so this is just 1 minute more. This is this post-training evaluation report that was given. So last but not the least, I want to say this. What gets reported may impress. However, what gets measured with purpose transforms. What gets reported may impress, and that's what you've been doing. You've been impressing people for those that want to be impressed. If I'm working in your organization, you cannot impress me. with those beautiful things, those happy sheets, those people are getting better, people are talking better, people are laughing. That's jargon. What gets measured with purpose is what transforms the business and transforms the organization. So L&D effectiveness is proven not in activities, but in the returns it creates. What returns are you creating for your organization? And this is a quote by Miss Sandra Doraco, Africa's leading voice on training transfer effectiveness. And on this note, I'm just wrapping up. What will be your next line of action? What will be your next line of action? In conclusion, old ways won't open new doors. You want new doors? You have to change your ways. Are you ready to change your ways to open new doors for you as an L&D professional, as an HR professional, as an L&D consultant, as an HR consultant, as an analyst? For those analysts, this thing should be easier for you because you're already good with data. You should have been good with data. Last but not the least, success doesn't come cheap. It comes with hard work. I've worked hard to get to where I am, to prove to employees, and that's why they always call me, because they know that I will prove ROI and ROE for them. Success doesn't come cheap. It comes with hard work. Are you willing to pay the price for success? The choice is yours now. What will it be? And on this note, finally, I want to say, be happy. And be happy, I mean, smile. Feel good about yourself. Do the great things you should do. Learn. Be happy. If you're to be happy, you have to learn. I learn. I learn like mad. I consume knowledge. I soak up knowledge. You know how you put sponge in water, soaking up. I'm soaking up. Be happy. Go for your certifications. Go for trainings. Come for webinars like this by OLXD and get better. And finally, feel good about yourself, just like I am doing, and just like Demola is also doing. Thank you very much. And once again, you can connect with me. I'm known as Coach Sandra Iheanacho, aka The Oracle, Africa's leading voice on training transfer effectiveness. That's my LinkedIn. That's my mobile number. That's my organization. And I'm not really on X, that's X.